Hey friends, how are you? Finally, after 3 years, the second season of Squid Game has aired. Today, we are going to take a deep dive and analyze it together. Here's how we'll do it. First, we'll go through the hidden details and complex issues of the story. And at the end, I'll share my thoughts on whether this season managed to live up to the previous one. Make sure to stay with me until the end of the video. This is channel error 404. Let's get into the video. You've probably noticed while watching the second season that the series has made a significant effort to address today's global concerns and has numerous indirect references to new international trends. One of the most interesting points for me was that the doll from the first game had undergone some changes compared to the previous season, and it seemed like its face was altered with injections and fillers to resemble models. When Gi-hoon enters the Squid Game for the second time, this time he looks at the camera with a frown, which is the complete opposite of the first season when he had a silly smile on his face. Another nod to the first season is when the man in the suit finds Gi-hoon and points a gun at his face, but when he shoots, it turns out there are no bullets, and he just wanted to scare Gi-hoon. This event references their first encounter in the first season when the recruiter had pulled a fake gun, actually a lighter, on Gi-hoon. This time, the man in the suit wanted to return the favor. The person who hired Gi-hoon to find the game officials in the previous season, who had really given him a hard time, now says that many of his new debtors have disappeared, hinting that the Squid Game is still ongoing. A question that arose among the audience was how the game organizers managed to find Gi-hoon's hidden GPS, but didn't notice the rapper's necklace, which was filled with drugs and could be used as a weapon. I think they probably noticed the necklace, but didn't remove it on purpose to make the game more exciting. They don't care if a player cheats or wants to harm others. In fact, they might be happy to have unstable people in the game. As for finding the GPS in Gi-hoon's tooth, I suspect the sailor informed the game organizers because he knew Gi-hoon had a GPS, so he somehow alerted the soldiers to remove it. On the back of the invitation card to the game, we see the number 456, which is our main character's number in both seasons. I don't think the number 034 had any significant role. I don't recall any main character from this or the previous season with that number. However, I found a shot from the first season where player 456 and 034 were next to each other, forming that exact number. Speaking of the number on the back of the card, in the previous season, the number on the card caused a lot of trouble because it was an actual number belonging to a Korean woman who claimed she received about 4,000 calls on the first day the series aired. A fascinating aspect of Squid Game is that the organizers pre-select people who have a high risk tolerance and are willing to continue playing each game. This trend of selecting players was evident from the start when the man in the suit offered homeless people either bread or a lottery ticket to see who preferred to take risks for wealth. Naturally, someone who chose the bread over the lottery ticket wasn't suited for the dangerous, risk-taking nature of the game. Did you notice that Noelle, the soldier girl, spares the life of a familiar person in the middle of the game? The father of the little girl she had drawn a picture for, who is now hospitalized with cancer. This is the only time she shows mercy, and she doesn't kill the father. At the end, we see that this man is shot by another soldier, but if you look closely, the soldier slightly tilts the weapon to avoid hitting the heart, suggesting it was intentional to prevent a fatal injury. This scene hints that the soldier might be Noelle, who later helped save him during the organ harvesting phase. However, this might be a wrong guess since regular soldiers also prefer to wound rather than kill players due to the organ trafficking issue. In the series, the pig speaker makes several references to the Matrix series, mentioning how people could take the red pill to forget everything and return to their normal lives, but instead, they chose the blue pill, becoming the hero of the game. This red and blue pill concept is also reflected in Gi-hoon's choices. At the end of the first season, he dyed his hair red and could have abandoned the game's troubles, but he chose not to and got involved again. We also see the red and blue colors in the two groups of players, where red symbolizes escaping the game, and blue symbolizes the risk of engaging in a dangerous activity. I think the most significant difference between the second and the first season was that none of the games in the season were based on chance. In the first season, there were many games where players had no control, like having to step on a platform and hope not to fall. However, all the games in the season required effort, and each person's fate was determined by their behavior. Another positive aspect was the presence of the mother and son duo, which added a new dynamic to the game and created intriguing tensions between them. They were the only characters who introduced a new dimension to the story. As you know, player 001 in the second season, similar to the first, was one of the game's insiders, which was quite ridiculous. Despite Gehun's previous experience, he didn't suspect for a moment that this character could be a mole. He probably didn't realize even after the series ended because the voices over the radio made it seem like player 001 was shot and killed. At the end of the series, we discover that the ship's sailor was in cahoots with the game organizers and always tried to mislead the characters to prevent them from finding the island. Looking back at his behavior from the first episode, we can see how obvious it was. For example, he showed no reaction when characters encountered an explosive trap because he expected it, or why they couldn't find the island for 2 years since the sailor kept steering them away. This sailor was also the one who saved player 001's brother 2 years ago, so he clearly knows where the island is. In the post-credit scenes, we are introduced to a new doll, a male version of the previous one. It's worth noting that these two characters are siblings, inspired by an old Korean storybook. It seems players will have to play the red light, green light game again, but with a more complex and difficult version. In the first game, they managed to keep more people alive by cheating since the doll couldn't identify those at the back of the line. But with the presence of the male doll, they'll probably be monitored from both sides. Judging by the story, it's highly likely that players 001 and Soldier 11 will switch sides and join the good guys, which is a basic expectation of the series. Certainly, the short duration and abrupt ending of the second season were disappointing, but the good news is that the filming of the second and third seasons is happening back-to-back, and according to reports, the third season will be released in 2025. Unless there's a delay, in conclusion, it was evident that every second of this season was forcefully made. The director himself admitted he only made the second season for the money and is now exhausted. The second season didn't measure up to the first at all. The first season had many innovations in games, proper use of color schemes, and various cultural and artistic references. Its references were really beautiful and pleasant, like the decor inspired by ancient paintings that created unique spaces. I expected this season to have at least 1 or 2 new innovations in these areas, but I didn't see any new and creative decor. The use of colors was exactly the same as the first season, with green and pink used in every moment, which became tiring after a while. The last episode turning into Call of Duty wasn't appealing to anyone. Squid Game fans aren't looking for shooting and armed battles. The character development of most characters was weak, and none of their deaths made me feel emotional. Nothing seemed to matter. The series ended in a way that showed it had no structure, ending abruptly in the middle. Thank you all for staying with me this far. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and comment. Please share your thoughts on the second season in the comments. Until the next video on Channel Error 404, take care. Goodbye.